Daredevil, the album. 20 brand new songs featuring Evanescence. Plus, more new music from Fuel, Nickelback, The Calling, Hoobastank, Moby, Drowning Pool featuring Rob Zombie, Chevelle, Saliva, and more. Daredevil, the album. 20 brand new songs. CD in stores now.
Do you guys remember this? We were there. Welcome to Sunday presentation. I want to present something to you guys. I don't even know the name of my Sunday show. Sometimes it's Sunday Showcase, Sunday Presentation. Daredevil, the movie, Ben Affleck. It's crazy how this movie's only remembered as Ben Affleck and a scar-ridden bullseye forehead, Colin Farrell. I was recently watching this movie, aka Powders, and it is honorable. It's such a love note. They even down to that opening shot, the credit sequence with the buildings and the braille. They took this movie. Everyone involved took this movie seriously. They wanted everyone that was into The Crow, everyone into Blade, everyone that was disappointed by Spawn to put a third movie in that lineup. To me, Daredevil fits perfectly with Blade, fits perfectly with The Crow, even though like the Blade and The Crow are they're masterpieces. But it's definitely a cut way above Spawn. And then the comic book world moved on, and everything became this, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then the Netflix experiments. And this movie was straight up forgotten. They did a lot of work, even on this DVD. They talked to every single comic book creator. They put so many ideas. Kevin Smith even comes into this movie, who at the time was contributed on bringing back Daredevil, him and Joe Quesada, Jimmy Palmiotti. But then the comic book world literally betrayed this movie that embedded itself into the entire chronology of Daredevil, what Daredevil meant to comic book fans at the time, and how to make this character cool. Cool so much that they pumped up the music soundtrack. So the soundtrack for this was really supposed to emulate the success of the Crow soundtrack. The Crow soundtrack changed movie soundtracks. Second big impact point of that movie. And I think it all worked. That's the wild thing. I thought this worked so well at the time. I think the director's cut worked so well. I think the hype... I remember leaving the comic shop that I used to work at back in the day to go to Walmart to purchase the Daredevil director's cut the day it came out so I can buy it at midnight. The weird thing is my most local Walmart, which was 24 hours, didn't stock DVDs immediately at midnight. I had to go back early the next day. I don't know, AK Powders. I enjoyed this movie so much. Here is a making of to remind you how honest and thoughtful this Daredevil movie is. Let's go.
Hey, Mom.
And this is 39 take 3.
Hey, camera rolling marker. Set. And action. You're on camera now. Don't be a pussy. You can do that, right, David?
Can you believe he said that to me?
The only person I could really convince about this movie, about me doing Daredevil, was myself, to be honest. I mean, I knew I could do it. And I had to convince my wife and my friends and my partner, Gary Foster, and everybody I knew who also weren't sure if I could do it, quite frankly.
And cut. Great. Print that. Cut that.
fairly, the studios were saying he'd never done a movie like this before as a director. Maybe we could get some A-list guy. And they were, you know, I put myself in their shoes. It's not an unfair thing to be thinking.
Gary's a pest. Foster. Single-mindedly, initially really out of his friendship and loyalty to his partner, to Mark, but then he became a geek himself and got caught in the excitement.
Chris Columbus developed Daredevil for a while at Fox, and Avi had a relationship with Chris, and you know, Mark Steven Johnson, who's that?
I remember Gary at one point said to me, just give up. You're not really going to keep trying. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go try it again. He was just like, Jesus, man, move on and do something else.
As passionate as he is, it still needs a consensus, a group of people that are willing to say, I support this. So I was pretty, and I felt, you know, again, Mark Steven Johnson, Chris Columbus. Let's be honest. There's no way on the surface you're going to gravitate to the unknown.
People would always say the same thing, he's blind. They'd always go, how can he do what he does? And I'd explain, and they go, I don't know, it's pretty goddamn weird. A guy dresses up like a devil, and he's a blind lawyer, you know?
The biggest challenge is to look at the studio in the eyes and say to them, trust me. Why? Because it lasted for 40 years in the books.
In adapting the comic to the movie, there's always like a couple of things that every filmmaker's got to face. One is the fans, and I'm one of them. And you know, this is like my mythology, and these are the guys that I worship and I respect. And that's probably always been my biggest concern, is making sure the fans feel satisfied. At the same time, the non-fans will understand it. And the second thing is always the costume. Always, always the toughest thing to crack.
This is the end. This is how it ends, folks. This is how and where. Good run. Decent career. Had fun. Had some pride at one time.
We're going to reproduce your body totally, and they're going to sculpt on it.
Right.
And then we're going to take molds off of that. So whatever we make will fit your body. Okay, so it's like a personal suit. It just fits you, nobody else.
It's a living, you know what I mean? It's a good living. I know. Am I getting paid for today?
This is a very, very tricky area when it comes to costumes and superheroes. How far can you go without looking silly? You know, I had to go find an actor who was willing to put on a devil costume and run around New York City. I mean, that's a pretty risky thing. You know, it really takes balls to do something like that, because the chance of looking ridiculous is very, very high.
You see, if the front half tweaked a little bit out and the back half tweaked a little bit in, then they would match up when we put the mold
really
two halves
if
together.
you did the top and the bottom together.
That would be painful.
Whoa.
That is a trip.
There you go. You sure you want to take a...
So can I take a shower, guys?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
My first image with Mark Steven Johnson was him presenting me with a very beautiful maquette, a small sculpt of Daredevil, and saying, I want it to look like that. And I thought, great, this we can do. Within a week, I got these frantic phone calls saying, the concept has to completely change. We don't even think we want it to be red. We certainly don't want it to have horns. They're freaked out that it might look too much like Spider-Man.
So all of this were the initial research for the red of Daredevil. Material, spandex, leather, net, made up, all the different techniques we could do, all the different faux techniques we could do of the pleated leather, the textured leather, silk screen, hand painting, as well as just figuring out what Daredevil's red is. We went through every shade of red there was.
I can tell you that I once was driving along a freeway and I took a call from a group of executives sitting in a projection theatre, winding a test piece of film backwards and forwards and having a 40-minute conversation about the colour red. That's how crazy it got.
We're working on Daredevil's mask, which is a leather-covered piece of vacuform that's made up in black first and then sort of dry brushed red. And then from there we'll take it and age it throughout the movie.
This is the Ben final sculpt that's done in plaster and then drilled out so that they can vacuform and have the vacuform pull down onto the plaster. And you end up with not something like that we trim out, and then this then is covered in leather.
Mark Steven Johnson's ability to cope with the vagaries of and changes of opinion on this movie was remarkable. I'm so impressed with this young guy who can absorb that kind of pressure.
And at some point you just feel like, you know, you're fucking Joan of Arc and you're hearing the voices. You're going insane. And there's a certain point in the process where I had to say, guys, you know, everybody talk together and then come to me with thoughts. Because I have so much going on. There's so much to do. I cannot satisfy and listen to all these different opinions.
Oh yeah, that's okay. We thought rather than putting the elbow over the top. Pardon?
But you like the elbow pad.
I quite like the elbow pad. I thought it was too thick.
This is too thick and too much, too bubbly
glue. And it's riveted to the sleeve just below the muscle, so that the whole thing looks as though you shove. You know, it's giving it a whole reason for pulling the sleeve up.
I think you should. I don't know. I think they should be cut off and just have them end and do something. I don't know. I just think when these start rolling up. Whenever you see guys with leather jackets that roll them up.
I guess what we were trying to do was to get this idea to work, this idea of something that you yanked up for even higher.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
So are you saying you don't want any of that?
No, I think that we can still have some structure. This will go into the elbow pad, but I don't think that you need to have a big old system to hoist up his sleeve. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Then he's just like, wow, it's really hot in the kitchen. Whew, dying. This is great, you guys. Really badass. Really great.
It's a collaboration when you're making a movie, especially when you're designing these kinds of characters. So the studio has a point of view, and other producers have a point of view, and the costume designer has a point of view, and the actor has a point of view. So we went through quite a series of ideas. Is Daredevil traditional? Is he completely untraditional? There was a conversation at one point, maybe he's a guy just wears a sweatshirt and jeans and he's just, you know, on the street as a vigilante thug. Obviously, you know, Mark was ready to pull his hair out, but he had to go through this process because everybody had to download their ideas.
By the end, you know, there were people screaming about why are there wrinkles? You know, why doesn't he have a thick neck? Why isn't it redder? You know, why aren't the horns bigger? For somebody who supposedly is the man without fear, there was an awful lot of frightened people around.
I would say realistically we spent about 7 or 8 months going through it. Ultimately, for the good of the movie, and I know Mark is happy about it, ultimately everybody realized that the traditional look of Daredevil had to be maintained.
That's the original location photograph. I'm just going to quickly show you how this painting started out.
This is the model of the downtown section, the historic section of downtown LA that's being mocked up for Daredevil for Hell's Kitchen. So this is going to play as New York City Hell's Kitchen. And what we've done is we've added water towers, what we've been using between Broadway and Spring Street of downtown Los Angeles and 5th and 6th. And we've added water towers because there aren't a lot of water towers here in Los Angeles, as we know, so we had to sort of mock up the skylines to make it look like downtown New York.
I'm working on a rooftop scene that is going to be built actually on stage, and it's where a fight sequence takes place with Daredevil. And the way we went about this is we built it in just rough shapes in a 3D program called Strata, under Kirk Petricelli's direction, along with Mark Steven Johnson. The black is representing what we've got to use and fill as a backing. And what you see in these rough gray shapes is what's going to be built on set. And that's the shot.
Daredevil walking down the stairs very menacingly.
Speech. Ready? And action.
Here's the reality of the situation. We started this with a 61-day first unit schedule and a 28-day second unit schedule. It's not realistic when you have performance and when you have actors doing stunts that you're going to get a first unit done in 61 days.
For me, especially, I'm already struggling because I've never made a movie this size. They wanted everything, but they didn't want to give us the days. And so what would happen is we would just get days as we needed them as we went, but with always that kind of pressure and threat of you're going over what was an unrealistic schedule to begin with.
3, 2, 1, swing!
Well, I play Jose Quesada, and he is this sleazy, slimy, greasy, suave, sort of, I want to say horrible other bad words, but, you know, we'll keep it PG anyway.
I said, what do you want?
You know, and I do some horrible thing to some woman, and, you know, my relatives have to see me do these things. It's not easy. But he's the first to go. It's probably going to be my most glorious death.
I played a photojournalist in a movie called The Mean Season with Kurt Russell and Andy Garcia, Mariel Hemingway. 1983, and actually Gary Foster, the producer of this movie, his father, David Foster, produced The Mean Season, and Gary was a second PA. First, it was actually not even a second, he was a PA. We all know what PAs do. PAs work very hard, get very little, and get all the blame when they screw up.
Got it.
Tail marker.
Kind of a single to here. You know what I'm saying? What? 很快就很快了。Fast. 这个 department 就一点点。It's very tight. So, give it small. Okay. Good. Ready? Okay. And action.
I spent all of last year learning to fight, learning just the smallest bit of how to perform martial arts for the camera. Immediately I knew that I wanted to train with whoever they would have training Ben for this movie, and in this case it was Master Chen Yan and his wire team from Hong Kong. And also, so that was actually my absolute initial first response was, oh, how fun to do these fights and work with somebody great and work really hard and be focused on just fighting.
And action. Why don't you tell me what you do like? We'll start there.
Chen Yan is here, who did Charlie's Angels and who just finished working with his brother on Matrix. And they're here to incorporate a little bit of their ideas.
这个就是，他们练的时候呢，我都怀疑他们会有没有这个练不练得成。可是练下来了，他们还很容易那个上手啊，也是蛮聪明的。
外侧啊，外侧 great yeah yeah I can see it
Jennifer, you're hooked up.
I feel that I'm Here we go. Okay, so go ahead and just see.
预备，1、2、3。
You gave up on me, Pommy.
I did not.
Shrieked in terror.
1、2、3。
Don't burst into laughter.
We were pretty serious about this fight, and actually, we did every bit of it. The stunt doubles didn't step in, even for an insert. It's all us. Every last flip and kick and every bruise that went along with it.
Yeah, how do you feel? I want to flip. I'm ready to go. You
know, wearing the wire rig sort of feels like you'll never be able to have children in the future. It holds you up. You're holding your whole body weight essentially by your sort of waist and between your legs and your inner thighs, and it cinches you in there. And it's great because, you know, adoption is a route that I am okay with, you know, and I've thought about. So that's where this picture leaves me.
Hey Ben, everything in that one was perfect. Just the arms split up like this as you were landing. That's the only thing I'm saying. Okay, come on. Cut. You don't want to break? No, let's go. Okay.
这个就也是尽量而已，不过就痛肯定没办法的，肯定会有的。可是
，First one's a warning. Padre. You. I mean, I read some of the character research. I read some of the comics Mark sent me when I went home to Dublin before I started work on it. Because there's not much preparation you can do for the part I'm playing. It's not constricted by the realms of reality, and you couldn't really, you know, get into character or do some character research. What was I going to do? Go around the streets of fucking Los Angeles with a paperclip, killing people, and pencils, stabbing them in the neck. So I mean, yeah, the thing about this, which is why it's so much fun, is because I've never done a job like it, in the sense that you just check your subtlety in at the door, and, you know, be as camp and over the top as possible. I want a fucking costume.
And Colin's take on it is he's going to play it like part Sid Vicious, part Alex from Clockwork Orange.
Really Irish piece of trash.
Colin, a lot of people don't know he's even Irish because he's never done Irish. He always plays American. And so this will be the first film where he actually plays his own accent.
It's a branding. I mean, it's John Jackson and Deborah who are doing the makeup. You know, they made it and they put it on every day. And if I sweat, it starts to bubble. so they have to fucking rip it off and put another one on. But it's great, man. I mean, feel it.
Wow. It's very skin-like.
Yeah, it's gelatin. But yeah, he would have just had a board and branded it. It's a branding. You know, it's not a tattoo. Or they were going to do a tattoo. I mean, you know, in the comic book, he's in a pair of blue fucking tights, and thank God they knocked that one on the head. And then they were going to have a tattoo, and then Mark decided it'd be better for, you know, the idea of him just branding himself. I think they are trying to distinguish different people's fighting styles, you know what I mean? With my stuff being more tricky, being not so much close combat as just wanting to throw at you and put you down from far away. Jennifer and Ben's characters having much more similar fighting style than anyone else. And then, of course, there's fucking Michael Clark Duncan, who could, you know, bust out a fart and you would just drop with the power of it because he's so huge. So I think he's about crushing.
The only time I was drawn to the Daredevil comic books was when Kingpin was in it, because he was this big guy, he's a bald-headed guy, and he could fight really well for his size. Even though I wasn't that good at fighting, I still kind of drew to that character. So when Mark Steven Johnson came to me and said, "We want you to play the Kingpin," oh man, you try to be cool, you know, because you're in negotiations, so you don't want to know you really want the job. So you're like, yeah, well, I don't know. I got some other things going on. But inside, I'm like, yeah, oh, Kingpin, yes. So I really wanted this role very badly. And once he told me that, I was just like, I just dove in.
I think Michael's the best big man working today. And in the comic books, Kingpin is white. I was adamant that we get the best actor for the role and the best big man for the role, and that was Michael. So I think, you know, the spirit of the character is much better served by going by the best person for the role instead of trying to match, you know, color, skin tones.
Well, first of all, Mark told me I had to gain weight because I was at 305 maybe when I met with Mark last year, and he said, well, you know, Kingpin's a big guy, so you got to at least get up to 335.
I looked at him and I said, Michael, you're so skinny. You've got to gain 20 pounds easy. And he said, oh, man, call my manager. So we got his manager on the phone. He's like, listen to what he says. He puts me on the phone. And I had to tell her, you know, Michael's too skinny. I love him to do the part, but he's just too skinny. And she's just like, oh, my God, don't tell him that.
And 3, 2, 1, go.
You did like this, you got thrown, and was like, you know, because that'll look like, oh, it hurts. You know what I mean? Like the horn and the top of the helmet, like, doom. You know? So you like break it like this, you know, and kind of frame it. Yeah.
That's hard. That right here on the pushy. It was funny because he got these shorts on and these gym shoes and a t-shirt, and he's giving orders, man, like he's been working hard all day. And then this is what, 10 o'clock?
You see me this morning, dude, when I was doing some serious business. You weren't here. I don't have you bring
No,
me up
we
for
came
that.
in at the same time. We came in at the same time.
Never mind that.
What did you do that I didn't do? I've been in my outfit all day. What are you doing?
This is your outfit, that's
fine.
fine.
Your shirt is all clean and fresh. There's no dirt on it. Nothing. Look at it.
Because I changed
Okay,
it
move.
every day.
Look at it. There's nothing on you, man. Nothing, man. You're short. You're just like, yeah, man. Are you going to do something today? I just want to know.
And 3, 2, 1, go.
Pretty quick in the speed.
Set, Jeff. Okay, set, and 3, 2, 1, go.
Cut it. You see my put my head through the window already? Oh my God.
The first one was kind of. First one was done like this. Everybody did like this. Look, hey, okay. Nobody say nothing. I don't back to like this.
That would be the best way.
You went in, say 1, 2, 3. And then you stood up like, yeah. A little bitty circle. I'm like, wait a minute, man.
I did not stand up like, yeah.
You did, because if you didn't even say it like, yeah. It was just one little. I said, oh, you got like this. I said, if you don't do that again, I'm a clown. Now the second was the ball. Because you did it like, oh. I'm like, okay.
A lot of the so-called superheroes, you know, you see actors who are playing them, and they're tiny people. I mean, they're 5'9", or they're 5'8", or they're just, you don't believe it. A lot of people don't realize that about Ben. He's 6'3". He's a big guy.
Every fight in the movie, every challenge that Daredevil overcomes, Mark and I talked about giving a different look to each of those in order to bring out something unique about each fight there. So as we go into Fist's office, you finally find Daredevil in a world that is absolutely unlike anything that he's used to. It's very reflective. There's windows, there's glass, there's stainless steel, which all reflects sounds and reverberates them and makes it very difficult for him to have any sense of what's going on in that room.
The Fist set with Michael Clark, we were concerned about everybody's comfort on the set, so we actually we heated the water also that was spraying on all the actors during that scene. Michael Clark dealt with it pretty well. I mean, the floor it was like an ice skating ring. We had little bits of silicone representing the glass so that if they fell down, they wouldn't get hurt. So we replaced all the actual glass with silicone rubber glass, and that tended to be a little slippery along with the water.
Basically what we're going to do is Chris will take off from an air duct, air conditioning duct up on top of 6. He will end up on rooftop 1. We're going to do this safely. We're going to do this nice and slowly, make sure everyone's 100% ready.
The night shoots for us add a little difficulty to what we're doing just because everybody's biological clocks are a little off and everybody's a little tired, and you get run down and you're tired, and then a lot of times you're trying to do this pretty visual, pretty dangerous stuff, late hours of the morning, and you're always concerned about everybody.
Oh, I got to rip the nuts off!
All right, bring in Daredevil number 2, please.
I couldn't know what the fuck was happening. Those pigeons were standing on my head. Did I miss the kick? I couldn't see the kick. It was pigeons. It was chaos.
Attacked by a killer pigeon.
Action!
It's getting to be like a practical joke. That pigeon hurt.
And set.
And action!
Remember me, murderer?
She's a dancer, I think that's the flexibility is the biggest thing really with martial arts stuff, like kicks and punches and stuff, and she's tough. She wants to do the stunts, she can do it. She doesn't ever complain.
Put camera left, Tom.
You guys are okay with it? You can make the first couple moves sort of faster.
Sure. Let's just rehearse it real quick, okay? Because I also want to look closer together, but I want to be safe. So
the first couple moves will be like.
Ready?
Yeah.
See, the thing is, I gotta whip this out in the interim.
Well, why don't I do one of these?
You should pull it out. You should pull it out when you're.
yeah,
I'll pull it out when I'm down.
you give her that beat to do the twirl though. That's good though, Jen, because that adds so much energy to it every time you do it.
You can back up, and you can be backing up during this.
Okay.
I was messing with Jennifer Garner ever since I've been on the shoot. But once I saw her do that flip off the wall, I said, you know what, I'm going to give it up to you. I said, I'm not messing with you anymore, because anybody that can run and do a flip off the wall is really good to me.
I don't know if I'd be able to beat her up in real life. If the cameras weren't there, I'd say she'd kick my ass, man. She's a tough bird. Tough bird from all the 80s and stuff, I'm sure.
Nice.
Mark is one of the hugest Daredevil fans on the planet, and also somebody with the clearest vision of almost anyone I've ever met. He had been planning this film in his head since he was 14 years old. It was so important for Mark to be true to the comic book, and I think the fans will appreciate that as much as we did.
It sounds silly, but it was kind of the end of innocence when you were a kid reading about characters you loved and someone got murdered in the comics, and one of those characters dies. And it was really a new experience, you know, for you as a kid to realize that people can die in these stories. It was a big breakthrough in comics. That was from Frank Miller's era in the 80s.
I can't hear you, Jeff. I need to be able to hear you.
This was not a big green screen movie. The budget put us in a position where we had to get as much as possible in camera. So we did a lot of wire work out on location. And that kept us from doing more visual effects than we might otherwise have probably liked to do. There are only a few occasions in the movie where Daredevil's leaping around and jumping around, where green screens were necessary.
I think the most difficult part about filming Daredevil on a day-to-day basis was what could we really do practically versus what could we do with CGI. When I started out, I wanted to have everything as realistic as possible. So that was always where we started from. So the wire work for a lot of what Daredevil does, I didn't want to have it to be Hong Kong style in that it's people bouncing on bamboo leaves and stuff. You know, it was never meant to be that. It was more supposed to be a wire assist, just to do some extraordinary things, but still have the laws of physics, you know, prevail. As great, as amazing as our wire team was, as amazing as the master was, and as amazing as Jeff Amata can be, it was just some things that we couldn't do, and that was really frustrating. So we actually found that by keeping things real with the wire work, we were actually servicing the story better and making it more real by using CGI. Wire work will eat up your shooting night. It can be so frustrating. And you do take after take after take, and you'll watch, in our case, not the sun go down, but the sun come up, and you realize you're running out of valuable time. We had one shot where Daredevil did a huge leap from one building to another. It was a very dangerous stunt. And rather than jumping like this, because of the nature of the wire work, he did this slide from one building to another, which is very unnatural. Of course, he would have just plummeted. That was one that we tried over and over and over for a couple nights in a row. And at the end, we never used it. We ended up using a CG character. And that, to me, was a big eye-opener. As great as wire work is, it has its limitations. And you have to know what they are, because it will really, really cost you.
3, 2, 1, go!
Everything's been on a freight train for February 14th, and so any additional photography's got to be done soon before it gets too cold for New York. It's supposed to be late summer, this movie, late summer going into fall by the end, and it's going to be winter by the time we get to New York, so.
Snap it started earlier.
Now, in your clean plate, do you have bullseye in it? You do, okay. Oh, so you don't go all the way in anymore.
We had to cut it because it looks so wanky.
So, this is no closer than that one where he's
It's
landing
not.
on the rooftop.
No, I know. That's why I'm saying put it on the list. I can't
It's
look
just
at it
an
anymore.
addition.
I just hate it.
Yeah. Next sequence.
These pipes here, terrible paint job here, which I was guaranteed would look like hollow pipes. And as you can see, it looks like they're fighting on a giant wind chime or xylophone. I mean, how hard would it be to put black in the center of those pipes?
How many shots are like this?
Not that many. This is when you can really tell that those are solid. They were solid for the stuntmen so that they wouldn't get injured, but now you can tell that they're solid pipes, that they're not pipe organ.
I mean, I know how to do it. It just is what it will cost us.
Yeah, there's one. You never really know what you have until you sit down and you watch it all and you realize finally what you really didn't need and what you still do need. It's always sobering.
It's 3 minutes gone.
It's huge.
Something's happened to me, Dad. I don't know what it is.
I'm sorry, Maddie. I'm so sorry.
huge. If this doesn't work out, the whole movie doesn't work. If the father-son relationship doesn't work, the movie will not work. And I feel that strongly about it, so that's why we spent so much time trying to get this origin story right.
We gotta get one of these things. Do we have a Psy at the office?
They're in New York now.
Can we request one?
I requested to keep one. I was told no.
Just tell him I really need a Psy. Tell him I'm having emotional problems with these two Psy shots, and
Rich needs a Psy for his Halloween costume.
we have a photoreal look to this movie, unlike some others. So we don't get away with anything. That's a challenge. I mean, there's always a little license paid to movies that deal with fantasy. God, that doesn't work. If you watch how it animates now, it almost looks like he's seeing it. It also looks like he's looking up at it. You know what? He shouldn't have looked up.
I know. Could have been great if he was just looking right at camera the whole time.
Yep. All right, let's do a CG head replacement.
ED8804
Oh, that's gotta hurt. Amazing what Jennifer will do for a movie, huh? So I think everything needs to be brightened up. I think the specularity's got to be nice and crisp, and the shinier it is, the more frightening it's going to look. We've essentially created a CG stuntman that looks like Ben. I mean, if it all looks great, but he's animated funny, doesn't work. If he's animated great, but he doesn't look real, you don't get away with that. Let's say the animation and he looks real, but the backgrounds he's being put over don't look real, you don't get away with that. So we have to nail everything on this movie. We need to work on him a bit. If I were getting pulled, if he were getting pulled, he's got to have a serious yank. He's got to have a serious yank, and then he needs to pull himself up. I'm not seeing any stress on his arm, on his shoulder. I need a prop. Let's just go forward to that frame. Just go frame by frame. If this were to be real and it was actually locked into the fan, the first thing that would happen, he would have no control of it. He's not that strong. This would go. That would go first. The gag is he's pulling himself up. So we have to sell that first. In 4 frames, there's no way he'd have control of his body. So we're sort of jonesing the joke here.
Essentially what I'm working on is the visual interpretation of the way our blind superhero Daredevil sees. He uses echolocation like a bat or a dolphin, and he essentially sees aurally. So we need to convey what he hears or sees to the audience visually, and the way we're doing that is a series of shots called Shadow World.
In terms of trying to get something that's digitally created inside a computer,